video devotion friends for our Jackson Video Devotion Ministry. We are so blessed to have Chelsea Daubenspeck as our guest speaker today. And my husband, Coach Phil Karl from University of Rio Grande, um, recruited Chelsea her senior year in high school. And we're just blessed to be able to hear some things about Chelsea's experiences. Um, Chelsea received a miracle. And Chelsea, I'm going to start out and we're going to invite you to share about your miracle from God. Okay. Chelsea, do you feel comfortable sharing when and how you became blind?
Absolutely.
Would you give us the circumstances?
So I collided with my brother-in-law in the kitchen one night. Um, and we were just having fun messing around and he slid on the kitchen floor and I I hit his chest and I got a bloody nose and didn't think much of it. Nothing really changed that night, but the leading days I noticed that my left eye was becoming a little blurry and distorted and this was during Thanksgiving break, so and then when I returned to school, I was attending Pioneer Career Technology Centers as a trade school. Um, I couldn't read the board. So I had to text my mom and I was like, "Listen, I can't read the board." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And so that night I went home and she asked me if I could run some errands to my sister's house and deliver some stuff. And I said, "Yeah, my sister lives like straight down the road 8 minutes." I was like, straight away, straight shot. And I was like, yeah. Um, when I returned home a couple hours later, I almost totaled the car a couple times because I couldn't see. And then the next morning I got in my appointment with um my actual eye doctor in Galion, Ohio, and she only scanned my left eye and she noticed that there was some swelling and um basically just swelling and a bunch of um basically blood behind on my retina sitting on behind my eye. And she referred me to Midwest Retina Dr. Kim. And a couple days later, this is a couple days for my 18th birthday, I believe. Um, I went in there and he came in and he goes, "Well, you have the condition, but I've never seen it in somebody so young like you." And I remember my mom and I just kind of looked at each other like, "Oh no, this is gonna be a wild ride." And I had a condition called choroidal neovascular membrane. And so my eyes were extravascular and had extra blood vessels in them. And so the impact and all the trauma that happened that night, it led those blood vessels to bleed and leak on my optic nerve behind my eye, and it caused a bunch of swelling on my optic nerve. So Dr. Kim didn't know what was to come. He never dealt with anybody like me. And they had to do eye injections for about eight months every 3 weeks. So I would go and they would inject needles in my eyes every 3 weeks to try to get the swelling down on my optic nerve. But it took so long to get the swelling down that it caused optic nerve damage and they couldn't fix it. And I've had to go see a retinologist down at Riverside, and he scanned my optic nerve, and he it was just damaged beyond repair. Like there's no going back. You can't really repair the optic nerve in this time with all the technology we have. We just can't do it at this time. And so I didn't really. So my vision got bad. This is November and December. And by December 20th, I was still attending school, and some of my teachers kind of didn't know what to do because they never didn't know how to handle me yet. And once they January 6th of 2022, I believe, is when they deemed me legally blind medically. And so after that point, my high school kind of tried to offer me everything but the kitchen sink for me to graduate early. And I kind of talked to my mom. I'm like, I really don't want to quit. I kind of want to be treated like everybody else and have the same opportunities because I deserve that. And I need to get all my um mobility coaches down here and get paired with somebody to learn how to navigate. And so I had a mobility coach. Her name was Heather, and I remember her. She taught me how to do crosswalks in Columbus and on how to cross the road and listen to the traffic signals and how they change and when to go, when not to go, and whether or not you have to be aware of the drivers, let alone yourself. And you have to use your um you have to use more senses other than your eyes. So I had to learn how to use my ears correctly and how to listen for um the traffic change, the change in traffic. I had to learn how to ask for help, which was very hard. Um, since I used to basically be independent. Um, it was challenging. It was very challenging.
I'm, I'm going to do a lead in with this. What were your first thoughts and feelings about your blindness?
I was shocked. I didn't know. It was very hard to believe at first. Even friends and family were like, "What? You're blind? Like, you don't look blind." Is what I've been told, and I'm like, "Well, what does blindness really look like, though?" Because there's many different people with many different features, and I never really had any issues besides I didn't have my peripheral vision. I didn't have my depth perception, and sometimes my color wasn't there. So I was seeing kind of black and white sometimes and um couldn't see that far in front of me, so I had to rely on my white cane. Um I was worried about losing my independence. And then I had to medically surrender my license as well, so I had to give up driving and be able to go places with all my friends and family, um, not having to drive me everywhere. But even though the adjustments were challenging, I embraced the change and I found determination in how to make everyday like my hobbies and everyday life more um adaptable to my new reality. And so like skateboarding, I actually learned to skateboard like maybe I'm gonna say maybe 6 months before I went blind, if not a year. I learned I had to teach myself again on how to get back on a board because I was determined because I didn't want to not just get on a board again. That I always thought that was cool and fun. I had to relearn how to do some stuff on the farm as well, how to navigate tools and how to do stuff like that. And we just do things a little bit differently. So for family game nights, we always played cards and just stuff. And there's a store for the visually impaired, and we bought all our family board games. We bought Braille Monopoly, and we had big cards like larger than a sheet of paper, so I was able to participate because my family always made sure I was included and made sure I was treated like everybody else and have equal opportunities. Um, which it gave me a lot of hope now that I understood that just it gave me a lot of hope knowing that I had a lot of supporters behind me um in this journey, which I couldn't be here without my family or my friends.
No,
Um Reaching out for support was also very essential during this time. I always tried to stay busy and stay connected with friends and family and always talk to everybody. Um and also sharing my experience overall provided me a lot of comfort, and it made my circle, my family's circle a lot bigger, which was awesome.
wonderful. Now, Chelsea, do you have a faith in God?
Yes, I grew up going to church, and um my faith grew stronger in this journey, a lot stronger than it was before. I learned to adapt and embrace my circumstances, realizing my challenges could also be my teachers. God was my teacher, and he taught me that everything was going to be okay, even if things were very challenging at times. My faith all like was the biggest cornerstone during this journey and guided me through a lot of dark times and helped me maintain my hope and my determination. I also found comfort in believing that this was a journey that God already wrote and he already planned this for me and he had a purpose for my struggles and he was gonna make sure he wanted me to meet somebody and help people with my journey. So it was a blessing, honestly, because I've learned so much in the last 3 years than I've ever had my entire life. And I'm 21, so that's a lot of years, but um I've learned so much within the last three, and all my relationships, even with God, became so much stronger.
Wonderful, Chelsea. Would you share with us about an experience, an amazing thing, event that happened around this past Thanksgiving?
So on November 13th of 2024, I got my wisdom teeth removed and I was put under local anesthesia and, singing a lot of songs when that oral surgeon before he came in to work on me. And the whole office knew and really loved my singing, apparently, is what my mom told me. But when I woke up in the recovery room, um I noticed that I could see and I had gauze in my mouth, so I wasn't able to really um talk to people. Or I kind of looked over at my mom in the corner. I know she was there, and I looked up and they had ceiling tiles that looked like clouds. And when you're on all that anesthesia, messes with your head a little bit. I thought I died. I thought I was in heaven, and um, for a good 2 hours on the way home, I kept asking my mom. Um, it was a nice journey going through here, and I was asking where all the angels were, and she kind of got a little uneasy because she was like, Chelsea, why are you talking? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm now in my house in the living room downstairs, and um, I was like, Mom, we died. Like, there's no way. Like, I died, and she kind of looked. She looked mortified, no, like knowing that I said that, and she goes, "What do you mean you died?" And I'm like, "Mom, you can't convince me that I didn't die. I can see now." And her face, she cried and of joy, and she started flipping through the channels of my TV and asking me if I could read all the different titles and names of shows and actors and what time they were coming on. Um
She was giving you an eye test, wasn't she?
Oh yeah, she was. She thought I was still on that medicine, and I
Uh-huh.
was like, no. I just didn't know. I just thought we were dead, and I thought everybody was just coexisting around us, and I didn't think it was really. I didn't think we were there anymore. And no, she was just overjoyed, and my dad came home, and I kind of looked over at him, and he asked, he goes, "What happened? Or how was your surgery?" And I was like, "Well, I can see now." And he cried. He goes, "That is amazing. That is a
Mhm.
miracle. That is just beyond."
Oh,
He had no words to even explain it, his gratitude and what happened.
how and why do you think? Well, first of all, once your sight returned, didn't your mother or you, did she take you back to your eye specialist, Dr. Kim?
I did. The following, so I had my surgery on the Wednesday, and so a week after that, on the next Friday, I went and I saw Dr. Kim, and I'm just having fun in the waiting room because I get to see everybody that
Oh,
sits in there, which there's nobody my age that sits in that waiting room, which just me. And so I went there and I got the eye test, and this um the person who gave me my eye test never met me before and didn't really know the whole backstory about why I'm there. And she kind of looked at my eye chart and was like, okay, like she gave me the ice thing and she was, can you read, can you read like the top line, which was, it was, I think it was like 2400. I was 2400 on my left and 2300 on my right. So she didn't really expect much out of my eye test. And I I surprised everybody in that clinic that day. I read until it was 2020 and she cried. My mom cried. She sat there and cried because we saw so many specialists and they couldn't explain my outcome or anything and how my eyesight got so bad so quick, but it they couldn't explain it.
and didn't Dr. Kim tell you that when he did the testing um, that there was no scientific explanation
There was no
for
scientific
your sight
explanation.
to be restored?
Yeah. He medically he couldn't give me an answer, but personally he said it was a miracle.
Yeah. So we had a scientist say that this was a miracle, Chelsea. And oh, now, how and why do you think this happened to you? Why do you think it happened?
Um, I kind of figured that um the wisdom teeth removal surgery was just part of a greater plan that God had for me. And throughout my journey of being blind, I learned um to trust God's plan even when the path ahead isn't very clear. I held on to that belief that everything happens for a reason and God was guiding me through each challenge I faced. Um, when I think about divine timing, I realized that God already knew what he was doing. My experience was just not a coincidence. It felt like it was orchestrated by his hand, and preparing me for this moment in the right time. My faith provided me with strength, and regardless of my circumstances, I was truly never alone. My trust in his wisdom allowed me to embrace my journey with an open heart, and for that, I am forever thankful for the many blessings that had came from it and all the people that I got to meet. And I listened to so many people's stories, similar stories. They have family members um, with different eye issues, and they don't really relate to anybody because there's never anybody else like us. But there are people out there with similar stories. You just gotta share your experiences. And
Good listener, right?
yeah, you have to be a good listener because sharing my experience really got me through all the challenges I faced, even if I told the same person what happened four times every time I saw them. But I'm glad they kept listening.
Now, what do you want others to learn from your experiences?
I want others to recognize that challenges leads to growth. But with with some perseverance, faith and hope, um, you can overcome the most daunting obstacles you're faced with or given. But you just got to keep believing that there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and you got to keep pushing through.
That God's got the light.
Yes, he
Yes,
does.
he does. And Chelsea, what other exciting event did you have happen at Christmas?
I spent my Christmas in Winchester, Virginia with my now fiance because I got engaged. So we got engaged. There's no date set yet, but we're very excited.
Wonderful. And have you ever heard this song by Laura Story called Blessings?
Yes.
Oh, and God placed that song on my heart last night when you and I were connecting. It was like, what if your healing comes through tears? And what if the thousand sleepless nights are what it takes to know you're near? And what if the trials of this life are your mercies in disguise? Um, and when you talk about God's plan greater than what was happening to you, and God's hand in your life, and God's healing touch upon your eyesight, Chelsea, and that what we go through, like you've referred to the challenges that you went through, and they actually made you stronger and helped you trust God more.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Um, and Chelsea, you even had a little bit of humor because your first week on campus, you you go ahead and tell because we've got tears, but we've got laughter. And my husband, the assistant coach, did a video of you on your skateboard with a friend of yours named Joseph, whom you
Yep.
just met.
I just met Joseph, and I was teaching him how to longboard, and I definitely took him down the biggest hill at Rio on the
Yes,
sidewalk, which wasn't
decision.
my best decision for him, but I'm glad he trusted me.
Yes.
Um, he definitely took a wipeout from that. But that's okay. He still um tagged along on all my ridiculous journeys, and now we're engaged.
Hmm.
So it's an
So
amazing story to tell.
part of God's bigger plan.
Yes,
Well, Chelsea, you are a blessing and a joy, and you always have been. So it's just a joy to have you to talk with us about God's miracle in your life. And who knows, we may connect again sometime.
we definitely will.
Thanks for your grace. Okay. And your wonderful sharing.
Thank
We'll
you.
connect with you again. And God bless
Perfect.
you.
Thank you. God
Okay.
bless you too.
Keep trusting.